Alright, so third time taking it off. Got the rear valve cover off, front valve cover off. Got this guy off, and I'm getting ready to disassemble it to completely retime it. Alright, so it wants me on the opposite edge of the hash lines to take this bolt off first. Take that bolt off, I'm going to rotate it while we're keeping the tensioner in, and I'm going to take out the other bolt. Alright, so I got both those bolts out. We're now going to remove this bolt and this bolt to take out the guides for this front chain. Alright, got them both out. Now I'm going to remove cam chain tensioner and pull this off and these two guides up and out of the engine after I unhook it from right here. Okay, got that out. Both guides are out. Also had to take off the little bottom little knuckle type thing. Manual didn't say to, so it's possible that I'm missing pages, so that's great. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the rear. So I'm going to take off that bolt, rotate it 360, or 180 rather. Take off that one down there. While the cam tensioner is in, and once they're both out, I'm going to remove the two guides, tensioner, and pull them out.
Okay.
Alright, so I got chains off both sides. All the guides are removed. So right now the crankshaft is just spinning and there's no strokes because cams are not attached to a chain to decide on which stroke it is. So I'm going to go around. Manual says to put it at rear top dead cylinder or top dead center. And since there's no cam chain attached to the cam, it doesn't matter if it's the compression or the exhaust stroke. Hold on. It's a little big. It's slightly smaller. Just pause it. Alright, we are top dead center. Pin is in there, won't rotate any farther. The cam has the single line for the rear facing up, like stated. And now I'm going to put on the cam chain with the sprocket, the two guides, and the tensioner in the order that the manual states, and torque everything to specs, and then I'll get ready for the timing the front. Alright, so I got the rear chain, two guides, one for the two bolts are torqued to 100 inch-pounds. It is seated on the crankshaft. Let's see if we can get some light. The guide is in the recess of the cylinder head. The lines are flush. The single line on the cam is aligned with the single line on the sprocket. I don't know if you can tell, but the rear cam chain tensioner is installed and torqued to 55 foot-pounds, and the crankshaft notch is pointing towards the rear cylinder, and we got the pin in there signifying that the rear cylinder is at top dead center, and I verified with looking through the spark plug hole. So now all that is verified, we're going to move on to the front. Verified all that stuff. The top sprocket bolt is torqued to 120 inch-pounds. All those things are verified. So here we got we're going to rotate the crankshaft clockwise 410 degrees, so 1 full revolution plus 50, and we'll make sure that the pin is in and the front is at top dead center. Then basically do the exact same thing for the front, and I'll be right back. Okay, the front piston is at top dead center, exactly 410 degrees rotation. Didn't go over and didn't go before, so it should be where it needs to be. Also, now that we're at front top dead center, the rear is flush, and we're going to be installing this one, this bottom sprocket bolt. So something a little confusing on both, on the rear and front. It says to make sure the lobes on the camshaft are pointing down, which doesn't make any sense because the lobes are always facing either to the left or to the right. I can rotate it to the right a little bit and it'll start hitting the intake valves, and I can rotate it to the left a little bit, it'll start hitting that exhaust valve. So they are both pointing, that one's pointing to the left and those two are pointing to the right. I don't know what it means by make sure the lobes are facing down, because it wouldn't make any sense as to making this line up. If they were facing down, which I'm not sure if they mean exhaust or intake lobes are facing down, but it doesn't specify. It says that in both, and I verified with the stock ones, they also would face outboard and inboard. So yeah, just something to note. So I'm just going to stick with the lining this up rather than worrying about where the lobes are. Alright, so we got both guardrail or chain rails in. Everything is torqued at top dead center on the compression stroke. The lines are flush. Both sprocket bolts are torqued. Cam chain tensioner was in. I never rotated the engine without the cam chain tensioners on and torqued. So now I'm going to put the bike back together. I went through the checks for the cam timing. Everything lines up at front, top dead center. These two lines will be flush, which they are. That line down there will be pointing towards the rear, and in the front, those two lines will be pointing towards the front while those are flush. Okay, putting it back together. The crank shaft position wheel was torqued to 17 foot-pounds. It's installed. All the bolts on the cover are torqued to 115 inch-pounds. Valve covers are both on and all torqued down to 115 inch-pounds. And just working on the throttle body and intake, all that jazz.